everything starts with land and end with land. Because without land, you cannot practice the main or basic rights, especially as an indigenous people.
Welcome everybody to episode 193. I'm your host Miriam, coming to you from the Assyrian homeland in Iraq. This week's guest is a well-loved teacher, a passionate and visionary activist, an opinionated and respected member of the community. Mikhail Benjamin, or as I like to call him, Rabbi Mikhail, was born in 1969 in Balambus, a beautiful village set in the mountain of the Valley of the Kings, Nahla, or as we know it today, Nahla. He grew up and went to primary school in Nahla, but moved to Kirkuk and then Mosul to continue his studies. While he currently teaches the Syriac language at an Assyrian high school in Duhok, it's his work on Indigenous and minority issues and rights that stood out for me when I first met him in 2019. Recently, I had the pleasure of being guided by him through the remaining villages of Nahla. I've visited these villages numerous times before, but this visit was different. This time, I was transported on a historical journey that took me through the many transformations the villages have seen, from the glory of the past to the hardships of the present. When Rabbi Mikhail speaks, you can't help but listen to and hang on to every word he says. He is an incredible source of information and wealth of knowledge. And in this week's episode, he addresses a difficult but critical question about Assyrians in Iraq. Are we an indigenous people or a minority population? We dive into this question and the question of rights, or sometimes the lack thereof, for Assyrians in the homeland. The challenges we face and what we, you and I, can do to foster hope for a future in the homeland. Before we get to this week's conversation, I want to remind you to make sure you subscribe to, rate, and review the Assyrian podcast wherever you listen to it. Also, if you know someone who should be on the podcast, please reach out to us. You can find more information about nominating future guests on our website. And now, here is Mikhail Benjamin. Rabbi Mikhail Benjamin on the Assyrian podcast. Thank you for accepting this invitation to chat with the Assyrian podcast.
Basim Taraba, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope I can give you what you are asking for.
I'm sure you will provide us with more than what we're asking for. I remember I met you in Nahla. It was 4 years ago. I had just moved to Iraq. And I was visiting a village in Nahla, and I remember we were sitting together at a table, and I heard you discussing development projects for the Nahla Valley, and I remember then thinking, he is a wealth of information and knowledge, and you have not disappointed so far. You've always been very informative, and I hope that our listeners today will learn something from what you have to share with us.
Yeah, me too. I hope that.
Yeah. But let's start with maybe giving an introduction to our listeners about who Mikhail Benjamin is.
Again, thank you very much. My name is Mikhail Benjamin. I was born in Nahla, 1969. I studied here in Iraq. We call it, is it primary school?
Yes.
It is until 6th grade. Then I had at that time, because in Nahla wasn't middle and high school, then I moved to Kirkuk to finish my high school in Kirkuk. Then from Kirkuk I moved to Mosul to study College of Administration and Economic, Department of Accountant. Then again I turned back to Duhok. This is in 1993. 1994, I joined Assyrian Democratic Movement. The political party. I've been with for long years. At that time, I was working mainly in media, especially in Ashur TV. Then 2005, I was one of a group of friends. We established a new local NGO called at that time Nineveh Center for Research and Development. But at the same time, I joined to be a teacher for Assyrian language in Nisibin High School in Duhok. So I was doing two jobs in one time. I mean, teaching officially because this is something, getting salary for it.
Yeah, not volunteer work.
Not voluntary way, but at the same time working for Nineveh Center for Research and Development. This was 2005. But after ISIL, everyone went in different directions. Mm-hmm. So later on, we had to change the name of our local NGO, and we make it Nineveh Center for Minority Rights. At that time, I was vice president. Then we changed the structure. Now I am board director for Nineveh Center for Minority Rights. So because Nineveh Center for Minority Rights is a member within the Alliance of Iraqi Minorities, so I was elected in 2023 to be the chairperson for Alliance of Iraqi Minorities Network. This is a network include 28 different local NGOs working all over the Iraq, including 14 different ethno-religious minorities in Iraq. And for 2 years, between 2021 until April 30, I worked as a senior fellow of minority issues within UNAM. UNAMI, which is United Nations Assistance Mission for Iraq. This is in brief.
This is a lot in brief. I'm trying to keep track. But something that you said really struck me. You said that the organization represents 14 different ethno-religious minorities?
Yes.
So I guess the reason why I'm surprised is, I don't know why, and maybe some of our listeners feel the same way, that I only think of Assyrians as being minorities in Iraq and the Yazidis, for example, but I never imagined there would be 14 groups.
In Iraq, there are more, maybe 14 minority groups,
wow.
But within AIM only we have. Yeah, because we have Assyrians, we have Yazidis, we have Shabak, we have Turkmen, Baha'i, 14. We are 14 now.
Wow.
in this alliance.
And so where did this interest come from? The interest of wanting to do research in minority rights?
Yeah. For me, this is a good question, and take me all the time back to 2005 when we started to establish this local NGO, Nineveh Center for Research and Development. And at that time, we started to know that there are many things that we can do with minority and especially indigenous people. So, like I mentioned before, this was 2005. Then we been again a group that we established Alliance of Iraqi Minorities. That was the reason I was able to know about the Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva. So from there I applied. There was a program called Minority Fellowship Program. They accept. At that time, we've been only 5. With thousands of people from different locations, apply for that program. So that was the reason when I applied, and I've been accepted to participate at that program. For 1 month, they taught us about what exactly does the term of minority mean, what indigenous people means, and other procedures or what mechanisms you can use to advocate for your community if you are a member within a minority or indigenous people. So that was like for me the start point to start that, okay, there are good mechanisms, there are good ways that I can invest to work for my community as an indigenous people in Iraq, Assyrians as indigenous people in Iraq. And there is a good opportunity, there is a good chance that we can take, this local issue to take it to the international level. So from there, I started to be more interested. And by the way, that was the reason again that I was able to participate only in the Forum on Minority Issues, which is held usually in Geneva for five times. And also I participated in the Human Rights Council in Geneva again, and in many trainings or conferences inside and outside Iraq dealing with minority issues in general. And I do believe there is a good opportunity and a space that we can present our cause national level or on an international level.
So speaking on the national level,
yes,
are Assyrians considered an indigenous people?
Honestly speaking, this is like a kind of complicated question here, and this will take me to share with you an event happened with me, only to show you how is the term of indigenous people is still, if I may say, sensitive for the Iraqi community.
Okay.
In a way, they are accepting still the same maybe with the term of minority. But with the term of indigenous people, it's still like some kind of sensitive, and this is what I'm trying to share with you. One time I was presenting like a statement in Geneva, telling what happened to Assyrian people in Iraq, and this was after ISIL. Mm-hmm. So at that time I mentioned Assyrian Christian community as indigenous people, and at the same time I was using like minority term. So once I finished, one was representing Iraqi government and came saying, "Oh, Mr. Mikhail, I completely agree with you for what you mentioned, what happened to Assyrian Christian community in Iraq. I'm very sorry, what you already mentioned is all correct, and we are sorry, but we try all this." But then he said, "But if I may only ask you, when you say Assyrian indigenous people, what about other?" So please, if you can, so why? I said, okay, I know this is not the good time to discuss with you, but Assyrian or indigenous people of Iraq, this is a term being used considering some, if I may say, measures. There are some measures there, some points you consider, but doesn't exactly mean that the other communities, we should take them and put them outside of Iraq.
It does not exclude. If we say Assyrians are indigenous, it doesn't mean that others are not indigenous.
Exactly.
But we must be
exactly.
recognized.
But there is one important thing related to indigenous people. Those are people, they've been there. Exactly, they are related to the lands, their ancestor lands. And they've been there because any kind of political system to be established. We've been here in Iraq, related to our, rooted to our origin lands before any kind, not only before the new Iraq to be established, before any other kinds of political science of any kind of state to be established. So this is one main reason that Assyrians to be called indigenous people. And there are many other like measures that we can consider to call this community. Are they indigenous people or not? So going back again to your question, we are using indigenous people, but still in Iraq, they are still some sensitivity to use this term. They are more using minority, but not indigenous people. But in a way, not using the term of indigenous people, but dealing or considering, saying you are the origin of this country. They are using it. They are accepting it, especially when there are like a kind of, on high level political statement, they will say, you are the origin of this country, but not like using the term of indigenous people.
Why do you think it's difficult for them to attribute this term to the Assyrians?
First of all, misunderstanding of the term is the main reason. The same is going with the minority term. The other reason is they want to say all of us, we are Iraqi citizen. So if you said indigenous people or we are minority, they will tell you you are trying to have a kind of separation. You are like try to separate yourself from other Iraqis, which is of course wrong. So I think these are two main reasons. One, do not try. They are telling us, do not try to separate yourself from other. We are all Iraqis. And the second reason, as I notice everywhere, is the misunderstanding of the term of minority or indigenous people. By the way, I mean the term of minorities, not only with others, with Arab or Kurds or others, within the same minority they are not accepting. And the reason for me is like misunderstanding of what exactly the term means, which is not related, you are less than others. It's related to the number. It's related to you have different characters, if I may say. Is that correct?
Yeah. Characteristics that differentiate you from the majority of the population.
Exactly. You have a unique language. You have traditions. You have, these things, and you are working to preserve it, to protect it. So these are the elements to make you different from others. And one good and main element is that you have no political domination. So if you are less than the majority in number, you have no political domination, and you have different like language, traditions, all these things, and you are working to protect them. So you are different from other, and you are minority.
Wow, so I'm surprised you're saying within the Assyrian community there are Assyrians who don't appreciate or refuse to use the word minority to describe.
This is people within Assyrian community, and with other communities we still keep and in Iraq maybe the situation is somehow more different, because now they are trying to use a term of component. If you heard that.
No. Okay.
I mean, this is in Arabic they call mukawinat, which is in English components, and they say, oh no, please, we want to respect you, we want to appreciate your situation, that's why we are not calling you minorities. But within the international law, within different conventions or international instruments, this is a legal term. We accept it, and there is no harm to use a minority term, but still in Iraq context is not accepted. Again, I'm saying not only within the Assyrian community, but with other communities also.
But usually, I agree. So minority is a legal term, and usually that means that people who are considered a minority within a country have certain rights.
Exactly.
And indigenous people as well.
Yes.
And so for the Assyrian people here in Iraq, what would be the difference between being considered as indigenous and being considered as minority? Would there be a benefit to us as being considered an indigenous people? Or what are the benefits of being considered minority?
The one of good question, that someone need to be asked or answered. There, like you said exactly, anyone who belongs to a minority community, they all have the basic human rights that they are for all. But in addition, you have more rights because you are someone belong to a minority condition. In terms of indigenous people, one big different is again related to the land. I mean, if you are mainly someone who belong to minority community, the rights is related mainly to individual. They are individual rights, but in terms of indigenous people, the big and most important difference is without considering how many people there are. They may be only 1,000 individuals, but they have the right of self-determination, which is not with the minority. So this is an important right. I mean, of course we are speaking within the international law. So indigenous people, they have the right to keep their lands. I mean, their historical traditional lands. And the other, again, I'm saying they have the right for the self-determination.
So this is, if we were considered indigenous, then we would have the right for self-determination and for safeguarding and keeping our ancestral lands.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, because in practice, from what I've heard living here, is that even our rights as a minority are not necessarily respected or upheld. Because I've heard, for example, numerous cases where our lands have been grabbed. There's been many cases of land grabbing, even in Nahla, for example, and in other villages. Can you speak to that a little bit? I
mean, this is a problem. It's supposed not to be related if you are minority or indigenous people as a usual or a normal citizen, but we have a huge problems, and for me this is the main problem that we are facing. I mean, related to land grabbing. Okay, this is related because there is no role for law here, unfortunately, and in such a country in Iraq with no political power, with no role of law, yes, this is a big problem for us. The issue of land grabbing, unfortunately, goes back to 30-40 years ago. But what we hoped, when a new regime, at least here in this part to the north, when they called Kurdistan region, at least when they started 1992, there were many committees, many kind of structure when they started to solve such a problems, because this was inherited from the last regime of Saddam and goes back more maybe. But we hope that something new will happen and these big problems to be solved. Unfortunately, after 30 years, I can say not only it's the same, but maybe went to be worse. What happened? Yes. For example, if speaking about Duhok, only we have in Duhok, only within the 95 places that we are still living in. When I'm saying places, I'm speaking about a small village, including maybe 2 to 3 houses, sub-district, district, going to the city center of Duhok. So in Duhok, nowadays, as Assyrian people, out of these 95 places, there are more than 58 places we are facing this problem of occupying lands. It could be houses, it could be a piece of land, it could be irrigation water taken by other. Please, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just shocked because that's more than half of where Assyrians live.
Exactly.
Basically.
We are still living. Why I'm like concentrating on this more? Because I'm not speaking about other maybe more than 250 villages. Completely, we are out of them, right? We are not speaking about because they are completely be taken by other. We are not there more.
Yeah.
I'm only speaking about we still living in these 95.
We have presence, yeah.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So we have more than, like I said, 58 different cases within villages. Sorry, within these 55 villages, we have more than 76 different cases, because in one villages you will find like 3 or 4 different cases of problems or lands being taken by other. Okay.
Okay, wow.
Most
okay.
important is that within these different cases of land grabbing, we have cases being taken to the court, and there are an order saying that these lands belong to Assyrian people, but still not been implemented.
Why not?
No role for law. Again.
So the judge says, okay, this land belongs to
Assyrian.
Mom Ishu. He
Exactly.
is Assyrian. Okay.
Exactly.
And then Mom Ishu takes the order
Yes.
to where? To the police? To where?
It's supposed to be taken to. There is a kind of directorate. It is responsible for implementing the order that comes from court.
Okay.
But we'll tell you something. Okay, we'll do it next month, and then this person, we supposed to pay him something. Otherwise, we cannot. This issue took until today 30 years, and we are afraid to take another 30 if we are not going to find another way to deal with this issue. And if you ask me, what is the other way? This is what I'm trying to do, honestly speaking. Shall we take... it's not needed to ask if we need to take it to the federal court. This is one option or one choice, and we have to do it. Personally, I'm working on this. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to put it in a way to make it ready. So one choice we have to go to the federal court in Iraq, and then we have to take it to international level. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Otherwise, waiting in the same way, in the same procedures, we are wasting more time, and this is really bad. Very bad, because there is no chance more to wait 5 other years.
The more we wait, the more
we are losing.
Yeah, the people will stay on this land that doesn't belong to them. They will build on it. They will profit from it, for example. And
Sure.
so we're just losing.
Not only that, of course, all what you said, that's correct. But also, you may imagine someone who is the owner of this land, and he tried everything he can do to take his right, but still nothing changing in the situation. So of course he will lose any kind of hope. Mm-hmm. And what will be the result? He will say, okay, there is no chance that I will take back my right, which is my right, and even the court is saying this is my right. So what will happen? He will lose the last hope that he or she has, and at that time, the final result or the final option will be to take the decision of leaving the country. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. We are giving them another reason to leave the country. Yeah. We need to give our people a kind of hope. Yeah. That there is possibility for something to be changed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why it is. For me, this is the case number one that we need to consider, to give more, pressure or to consider anything that we can do to solve the problem, because in my point of view, in my opinion, everything starts with land and ends with land. Because without land, the other rights, you can practice even in US, in Canada, in Australia, in Europe. You can teach your language, you can practice maybe some of your traditions or other rights related to an individual, but the main rights, the basic rights, you cannot practice without your land. In your land only you can practice the main or basic rights, are especially as an indigenous people. But of course, maybe I gave more time and concern to the issue of land, but still there are some other issues or problems that as a minority or as an indigenous people in Iraq, or also other minorities, they are facing in Iraq. For example, you or maybe other outside Iraq, they will hear about the political participation of minorities, right? Mm-hmm. And it could be in parliament or in other local or national authorities, in executive directors. But in my opinion, this is not real, not effective, not meaningful participation. Why? Mm-hmm. Because yes, it's correct that we have, as Assyrian Christian community in Kayar and in Baghdad, we have 5 seats in federal parliament and in regional parliament. But again, it's not a real political participation. Why? Because all the time in the power political parties, the dominated political parties, they try to push people, candidates belong to them to represent our community. So in fact, they are representing their interest more than to represent our interest as a community, as a minority community or as indigenous people. Because all the time they try to put pressure to support someone, an individual, an candidate who is maybe a member in that political party, if not a member, but mainly he or she, they are working with them, representing their interests. So this is another kind of problem. In the media, they are saying you have a good representation, you have a good political participation, because as this small community, as a Syrian community, you have 5 seats, which is good. But in fact, it is, again, I will say it, because this is the term which is used not only here, everywhere. This is not effective, not real, mm-hmm. and it's not meaning political participation, mm-hmm. because they are, people who they are in parliament in here in Kurdistan or in Baghdad, they are representing other political parties, not a Syrian community, because they've been put there by their support. So this is another. Of course, maybe one other issue that we've been all the time, unfortunately, going back to years ago, we've been a victim for the internal, local conflicts and international or regional conflicts.
What do you mean?
Yeah, what I mean. For example, do you have an idea that only since September 2021, another 7 Assyrian villages from Barwar being impacted again? No more people living there due to the intervention of Turkey, due to the attacks of Turkey attacking, as they are saying, PKK.
Right.
So we are again victim of another kind of conflict, right, between Iraq and Turkey.
Right.
You have the idea what is happening in Nahla Valley, mm-hmm. 4 years ago. What the people, they are suffering from these checkpoints. Why? Because they are saying, we have to have these kind of checkpoints, and with having these very complicated procedures preventing our people not to take food,
yeah,
preventing
more than 1 kilo of rice or
exactly, leading to prevent our people to lose their job opportunities.
Yeah.
Because, for example, they have these projects of tourism, but people, they are prevented to go there. So again, what I'm trying to say, all the time we are being a victim for a kind of conflict. Maybe it is internal or local, or it's a regional conflict, but we are paying the tax for that. What's happening in Nineveh Plain?
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the conflict between KR from one side and federal government from another side? We are being a victim because there are very complicated procedures and checkpoints between two places. And they split the Nineveh plain into two parts.
Right.
One belonged to Nineveh and the other to KR.
Yeah.
And do you know our people in Teleskov, which is in Nineveh plain, in within Telkev district, they have thousands of acres of their lands. Now they are not able, or if they will be able, so they will need to take maybe 2 to 2.5 hours to go to their land to use it. Why? Because there is a checkpoint. Kurd side and the federal sides, they will prevent them to take, for example, a kind of machine or a kind of tool to use it in lands. And they have to take a long way for 2.5 hours to use their lands. This is, but while their lands, it's only 5 minutes. So this is what I meant by local, internal, and regional conflicts that all the time we are suffering. So and being a victim for this kind.
So I want to organize my thoughts here. So we basically have little to no representation at our local regional government level, like in the Kurdistan regional government, and we almost have no representation on the federal level because we have supposedly 5 seats that are allocated to represent Christian minorities, not even just Assyrians.
Yes.
It's just Christian minorities,
right?
But that the dominating parties are taking advantage of by
Yes.
placing Christian candidates in those seats.
Yes.
And then we have land grab issues where, sure, the law might be on our side, but there's no implementation of any sort of order that is taken to return a land to its
Yes.
rightful owner.
Yes.
And then we have the issue of being basically pawns on a chessboard where we suffer the consequences of conflict that's external to us.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, where are the minority rights then?
Yeah. Of course. It's so difficult. There is a little progress going on, and this is what we are trying to do. For example, going back to what you already mentioned. So what we are trying to do is to make it a real and an effective political participation. Mm-hmm. Because like you mentioned, yes, we have these seats both in federal and regional parliament, but in our opinion, it's not a real participation. So this is one issue that we are trying to do. The issue of land is a big problem. Of course, I took Duhok Governorate Nuhadra as an example, as a model, because this is the study that I'm already working to come out with a book, mm-hmm. to be like a kind of a document. But the problem is the same in Nineveh Plain, yeah. with different reasons. Mm-hmm. Many reasons leading to the same outcome. Mm-hmm. It's the same, of course, not to the, speaking about a land, because land is something different. It's the same issue in Baghdad in terms of property. It right. could be a house, it could be a shop, it could be, again, a piece of land, but not agricultural lands, mm-hmm. and these, yeah. it's the same, like you mentioned, being a victim for different kinds of conflicts, and this is the situation in Iraq for many years.
Yeah.
Going back.
Yeah.
The other concern that we, because maybe I'm trying to answer your question, where are the minority rights?
Yeah.
Again, trying to put it in LS. Another issue is related to the curriculum. Curriculum, I mean, it's still like an old style.
You mean what is taught in the schools?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the official one
From the government?
From the government, that we have the right, I mean, to read and write in our language, but the content of the curriculum is still, first of all, there is no, representing again for minority, someone who is living in Basra, very far to the south of Iraq, have no idea who is a Yazidi, have no idea who is a Syrian Christian, and what the role they have in this country. So this is one. The other, no, there are things that we need to remove it. Like, for example, using the killer of the patriarch Mar Benjamin Shimon 1918, Simko Shakaki, is still a hero in the curriculum. And each year, our students in 12th grade read that this Simko is a hero, which all of us, we know that he is a killer, right?
Yeah.
So still, this is one thing that we are working to remove it and replace it with another thing, which show who we are, what the role we have in this country, how we are the indigenous people in this country. So this is another issue. There are some progress happening, but still a long way to go.
So this kind of is related to cultural appropriation a little bit, because it's cultural misrepresentation, let's say, or historical misrepresentation.
Yes.
But I've also seen some places, for example, where Assyrian landmarks are being labeled as a Kurdish historical site, for example.
Yes.
Is this another issue that we're going to try to resolve with the government?
Maybe we can combine all this all together, because all this is related to the kind of the political system or the kind of government that we have here in Iraq. Without understanding what does indigenous people means, what does the minority rights means, they cannot understand how they supposed to respect, to guarantee these rights. So when they are not able to understand what does indigenous people mean, they are not able to give a good attention that this is something important to these people. So this is one reason. The other reason, maybe no, they are in attention, they want to erase our history. Yes, I can tell you clearly, this is another kind of problems that we are like, and not only, they are trying to destroy it. Sometimes they are clearly, you see, not only within the period of ISIS, what happened in terms of destruction, the cultural heritage. It's happening here in Kurdistan again, when the ISIS not reached, right? For me, for example, this is another example, by the way. Lastly, we started to work on a kind of project related to protect and preserve, if I may say, dozens of old churches and monasteries. So ISIS doesn't reach this, right?
Right.
But only because they are completely abandoned, because completely they are neglected. And this goes back, some of them, to 8th, 7th, 4th century.
Wow, okay.
Yes. But if you are not going to preserve them, to protect them, what will happen? So this is another kind of cleansing,
Right.
cultural cleansing, right?
But don't we
So-
have a responsibility in this part, though? The preservation of our historical sites
You
that are
mean
abandoned?
responsibility for...
For preserving, for example, an old church or an old monastery, whose responsibility is it to...
Yeah, okay. Oh, this is a good question. So there is a law in Iraq related to, cultural heritage or something like that. So if this site, the history of this site is more than 200 years, so it will be considered as...
heritage site?
yes, exactly. So the government supposed to be responsible of protecting and preserving.
Oh, I see.
But on the ground, what's happening? I mean, these sites goes back to 4th century, but no one is taking the responsibility, right?
Right.
So the good thing, related to these old churches and monasteries is they are considered property of church. And many of them, they have the documents like proving that this is a property of church. So, as a law, it's supposed to be the responsibility of government, right? But as something on the ground, no one is taking this responsibility. So we have to do it by ourselves. So this is the case. What we are trying... So in a coordination with the chairs, we are going there. Maybe I forget one important thing here. What we are trying to do is nothing related to rehabilitation or restoration.
Okay.
Because we have no right. Okay. If the government will come and say you have no right, we are saying okay, we are not doing that. This part. What we are trying to do nowadays, the idea of the new project is to go there only to do the emergency response or the emergency protect, which means a fence around the site. This is one. Preventing animals, people coming to take a stone or a tree maybe surrounding.
Yeah.
And then putting a kind of a sign with some basic information, and then across only. So in this way, we are trying to have this protection, at least for some years. Then, if there is a possibility for another organization or for the government to do restoration or rehabilitation, that's okay. But now we have this right, at least, because we are not touching anything related to the building, to the stones, to the church, to the walls.
And how many are there churches that are abandoned or monasteries that are abandoned in just northern Iraq?
Yeah, so again, maybe there is no accurate or concrete statistics. In my idea, trying to use some different sources, could be 250 to 300, maybe more, maybe less a little, but only within this area to the north, including Nohadra, Duhok,
Wow.
Erbil, and some places within Nineveh plain. They could be, this number of 250 to 300 old churches. All of them, we are not speaking, of course, about the churches that already been used. No,
Yeah.
only the abandoned, neglected churches and monasteries.
Wow, so and they're mostly in villages that were abandoned basically
Yes,
by
exactly,
Assyrians.
exactly.
And now possibly have a different population living there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So this is what we are trying to do, because in this way, I'm not sure if I have time now or not, but the main purpose And the great objective is to protect them and to preserve these rich cultural heritage, which is our people heritage. This is one. But at the same time, don't forget, we are protecting a piece of land, which is our property, our church property, right? And by the way, taking it back in a smooth way. No one can tell you you cannot do this because this is your property. But now they are using it. They took it, and by this way we can bring it back. Right? With one old monastery, you can tell a complete history. You can tell what happened to this nation, to these people in this area. Within one, for example, Beth Abe, which is in Accra, this was the monastery graduated hundreds of monks who went to China. Yes, the first one who went to China graduated from this monastery. Beth Awe in Accra, yes. And only it was 1 month ago, I was teaching my students in Nisibin High School about someone called Ishaq Ninwe, Isaac of Nineveh. In 663 was the bishop for Nineveh, also graduated from Beth Awe.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the objectives of such a project, if we can do it, preserving the rich cultural heritage, protecting at least a piece of land that belongs to you. It's your land. Why you should leave it there? Using it for tourism. People will come, delegation from different places. For our students, why I should tell them only within this piece of paper? They cannot imagine this story. But if I take them to that monastery, to that old church, and speak about Mar Ishaq, Mar Yaqub, Mar Narse, Mar Aprem, they can learn on place-based learning. It's better. Also, we can use it like a kind of tourism place. Bring different delegations from different places, and people, they can do something there. So many objectives we can achieve only with this kind of protection.
So we're trying to get our rights to keep our indigenous lands. We're trying to get political representation in parliament.
Yes.
We're trying to maintain our cultural identity and history within educational curriculums. We're trying to preserve old churches and monasteries that tell a story about our nation as well. Is this enough to give people hope to stay here?
Speaking about giving people a hope to stay more, security is needed. Providing job opportunities is needed, especially for new graduated students from universities, is one important thing. What we need to do is to have two things working in parallel. One is for the long term, because trying to do the needed change, maybe it will take some time, right? Working on the area of having real and effective political participation, maybe we can achieve it in 2 years. Then with having a good or a real political participation, we can change laws, for example, right? But we cannot wait again for another 20 years to have a good law, then implementation and guarantee our rights. At the same time, what is most needed is how we can provide our people in villages and different cities and towns with job opportunities.
Right.
Because this is another issue that our community, still suffer a lot, especially in the faraway villages. And if you ask me what we can do, for example, for having a good job opportunities, especially for the new graduated students, I was thinking that maybe we can concentrate more on produce something which is a good or a service which is unique with our community,
Right.
because the other they cannot do it, in order of course to compete other. Now we have a competition, a big competition in our places. For example, what is happening in Nineveh Plain, in a day when our people in Baghdad was the first one production many things, now there is a big competition coming from Shabak, supported by Iran, for example.
Right.
So we need to find another market, another kind of production, another kind of service that we can compete the local or the national market. The other thing I was thinking about, maybe we can invest in, is using the new technology, using the online things. So someone who is still sitting in Nahla Valley, maybe our people in diaspora can find a job with online opportunity. By these two ideas, I think we may consider, because here is somehow, not somehow, it's so difficult to find a job or the government to give it to you, not to another one from the same party. You know the situation, how is it?
The same party, the same family,
affiliated
the same religion,
to the community, affiliated to, so you know how
a lot of nepotism happening in the workplace.
Yeah. There is a good possibility, I think, in this area. Not sure. Maybe you disagree?
Well, no, actually, I think job creation is definitely an important thing, because without a job, then even I would feel useless. I would get discouraged.
Yeah.
And if I want to build a family, how will I support my family if I don't have a job, etc.? So then people start thinking that maybe it's better to leave this country because there might be better opportunities outside. But
yes, completely agree. Sorry to interrupt you. Maybe you noticed this in Nineveh Plain, in Ankawa, even in Nahla Valley, in Barwari Bala. I mean, no job opportunity is one big reason for a young one to start thinking to leave the country. Believe me.
Yeah.
Because myself, I know many of them who was, unfortunately, I'm saying who was, insist to stay. Many of them. I know them very well. They were still insist to stay, live in Iraq, live in Nahla, in Barwari, in Sapna, in Baghdad, in Teleskov, but again, with no job. This is one big reason, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe the issue of basic services, maybe the issue of security, no clear future. There are many reasons.
Yeah.
No political participation, real political participation. Not considering many things, they are reasons. But in my opinion, still having no job opportunity is one big reason for the young generation to think how to leave the country.
You're absolutely right, because I met someone once who was telling me, I want to leave. You know, my brother's in Australia. I'm going to go to Australia. At least there I'll be able to work. But since then, he found a job and he's happy with his job.
Yes.
And I have not heard him mention going to Australia anymore, because now he has a job. He's able to save some money. He's able to do something for himself. And now he's thinking about getting married. So really, no, I do believe this is one of the primary reasons, one of the many reasons.
Yes.
There's this loss of hope that happens. And recently I had a lot of people ask me, Miriam, how can we support our people in Iraq? What can we do?
Yes.
What is something that we can do that will have a great impact for them? And so, as you mentioned, one of them would be trying to come up with ways to create jobs for our people.
Yes.
But in what other ways also can we help?
Yeah. So having projects, local projects, is powerful way that we may support our people in these communities. Of course, again, what kind of project is needed to be considered, but I do believe that we have good people, good groups, good organization. They will come with of course, these sustained project. Not, I mean, in my opinion, we need to stop giving people this kind of like one-time support. I mean, a kind of
monetary or financial support.
Exactly, because this is only need to be done within the humanitarian crisis, or within a short period of time. I mean, not to continue for 30 years. What we need to do is sustain projects. A project, first of all, to provide a number of job opportunity with other, and to continue for long years. And of course, they will try to stay, and there will be a hope that something is changing in our community.
What kind of projects do you think are most necessary here?
Yes, I think it of course, first of all, it depends on the area that you are thinking about. For example, in Nineveh, plain in a way is different from the villages who they are in mountain or with these spaces of big lands.
Different difficulties, different concerns.
Exactly. But mainly, I'm speaking, for example, I will try to take Nahla as example, because I'm coming from Nahla and I know better the situation. But for example, the projects related to livestock, I mean, breeding animals, is one good way. So this is one. The projects of tourism also, for example, in Nahla is, but unfortunately again, but still, we will find a way to solve this problem. We will not, I mean, leave them to keep these checkpoints, by the way. We will find a way.
Yeah, so I think I've mentioned these checkpoints in a previous episode on the Assyrian podcast, but for those who are listening today and who are not aware, a checkpoint was implemented, I think, 2 years ago. Was it already 2 years ago?
Yes, it been 2 years. Yeah, maybe more. Yeah,
maybe more.
Yeah.
That severely handicapped the access to the villages in Nahla.
Yes.
I think now we can't even enter Nahla after 6 p.m. through this checkpoint.
Yes.
So they restrict the amount of food rations that you're bringing into the village. They give you a hard time. Last time I tried to go into Nahla, they took my ID until I exited Nahla, for example. So they've been putting a lot of pressure on the valley. And so this is the difficulty that you're mentioning. That we want to...
That's why I mentioned it, because there are many of our people, like they created these projects related to tourism, because we have Khazali, the good river and the good nature, and these beautiful landscapes, you know about that. So what happened with these checkpoints, they are preventing people, those who completely they are preventing not to enter Nahla Valley, people who they are coming from other places. They will check their ID and say, you are coming from Baghdad, for example, or from Shaklawa.
Why are you coming?
Why you are coming? So they are completely preventing them. So there is no possibility for people to come and to have access to Nahla. So they are preventing tourism. They are preventing our job opportunities. Which is very rare there. There is a lack of job opportunities, and not only this. They are preventing people to have access to the health. That's right? Because we have no health center there. We have no, hospitals. So, the one who gets sick have no right to go out Nahla after 6 p.m., for example. So what we will do, and by checking in this police way, they are abusing our rights. These are many kinds of human rights violations that they are practicing against our people.
Yeah.
So
Oppression.
Exactly. Preventing people to go out, inside Nahla, preventing our people to go outside Nahla after PM, checking everything, preventing raw material to build my house.
Yeah.
Okay, and many other issues. They are putting a kind of pressure, like doing the same thing that we faced years ago with the same regime of Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
They used to do the same thing, and now suppose they are speaking about a freedom and guarantee the basic human rights, but this is not what they are saying.
That's not what is in reality happening.
Exactly.
If and when we are able to resolve this oppression, this checkpoint that really is heavily restricting the development of tourism in Nahla, then potentially we can develop tourism. So livestock tourism, what other kinds of projects could one consider investing in, for example, here?
Yeah, for example, already we have this kind of tahini factory. They have a very good market to sell it, but the problem is they only produce a little amount of sesame.
Yeah.
Why this? Because this is related to the land that they are using, and the other reason is we need to develop more the water irrigation canal,
right,
so that we can produce more amount of sesame than we can use. Produce more amount of tahini, right? This kind of tahin, which is very,
it's delicious.
unique and delicious.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, maybe the support will be developing these water irrigation canals, so we can use more lands that we have already. With that, we can produce more tahini. Because I all the time used to ask those people who I know them, of course, very well, why you are only working for 3 or 4 months? Why you are not keeping working? While you know that there is a good market, within 1 month they produce it, they will finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they will stop not working more. They said, okay, because we have no more land to use it to
cultivate the sesame.
Exactly. And why this? Because the water not enough. So developing the water irrigation canals will be able to use more lands that we have, and to produce not only more amount of sesame, but more amount of rice and other agricultural needed. So this is another kind of support that our people can do for more creating more projects.
Yeah. And more sesame means more tahin, means more happy people. Because I know I was so sad. A couple of months ago, I reached out to some people in Nahla and I asked them, do you have any more tahini left? And he said, no, we're all sold out. I was so sad.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do without Nahla tahini?
Yeah, and by the way, this is a good, I think a good example of project to support people with more job opportunities. For example, because only this one project, the owner is getting benefit.
Yes.
People working for 5 months or 6 months, there 5 or 6 of them, they are taking having salary.
Yeah.
The one who is working on the land, he is selling more.
Yeah.
And there are, by the way, some groups who are buying the sesame from individuals and selling it to the owner of factory. Right. So those also, they are taking advantage of more producing.
Yeah.
So one project is possible to create more job opportunities, and more than one, this is a kind of chain.
Yeah.
chain, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Ripple effect, basically.
Exactly,
One small project to increase water flow to one land increases the amount of job opportunities that exist in that region.
Yeah.
This is a hopeful
message. I mean,
so
thinking about supporting people to be able using more of their lands. Believe me, I'm only here giving this example of tahini, but why I'm like more stressing on this in term of economic, you need to think about market, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot think to produce something there is no market for it.
Yeah.
So what I saw in Nahla Valley, by the way, we have 3 of these factories.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But no one of them, when they tell me, I mean, they start usually in autumn season, so they will finish maybe in October or maybe November or December.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come to ask if you want to buy, they will say, no, we finished.
Yeah,
or
we
you
sold
finished.
everything, yeah.
This is mean they used all to sell all the production that they have. So this is a good example. Maybe we need to think it more about.
Yeah.
Why? Because there is a big market, not only local market, not only in the Nahla Valley market, but outside also. And then if we have a good amount of tahini, we can think to export it to outside the country, to diaspora.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I'm sure the Assyrian communities abroad will thrilled to have access to.
So I mean, so this is a good opportunity that we may think about. Support our people in developing the water irrigation canals, using more lands that already we have but not used. By the way, not used because you need to take the water there. With using more lands, we are producing again more sesame, producing more tahini, and having more happy people like you.
Yes, I love my tahini. You know, I actually bring at least 6 or 7 kilos of tahini to my mom every time I go visit from Nahla. Yeah.
Hi, so you take with yourself to
I take
abroad.
It back to Canada.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
I give it to my mom.
This is another good example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Rabbi Mikhail, this has been a very enlightening conversation. I mean, we've heard some things that are really sad and upsetting, but there seems to be hope. And I want to hear from you. What is your message to Assyrians here, to Assyrians in diaspora? What do you think the future holds for us?
Okay, let me tell you, before everything, we have no other option not to be here.
Here in
Iraq.
In Iraq.
In Iraq, okay? Yes, the majority of our people leave the country. That's the fact, unfortunately. But still, there are people insist to stay. And no matter how difficult is it, no matter there is no progress, or there is a progress, to be honest, there is a progress, but it may be it's taking long time, many challenges, many difficulties. But again, I will say, at least for me, there is no option not to be here. That's why we need to use any way that we have to do a small progress. If you ask me, is it easy? Of course not. But again, with no more option, we have to stay and we have to try our best to change what we can to change. And I do believe with staying, with having another day, with having another tomorrow, another different tomorrow, another different future, is possible. It's possible. Believe me. With a hope, it's possible.
Rabbi, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you for giving us inspiration to think about the types of projects we can start, that we can develop to help keep our people in our land. I believe that with the right people and the right minds, the right thoughts, we can achieve what you're talking about. We can do this.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me the hope, because I think somewhere I had lost a little bit of hope.
No, I agree. No, there is a hope. All the time there is a hope, as well as there are people like you, me, many others, insist to stay and do something. There is a hope, believe me. Don't forget. It's ثورة خمدي شخلب ودلادو ثورة أخنن اديو بمتخ سو قد لمتخ اديو جركا ثورة بيخا قدمة بريشة خا دعثيث بريشة جميثن لغذاذة بلاختن مغذاذة ووتدن ترمياث أن بروجيكت قدن بنياث الدين تسنيقوتا قد شوقي قد ناشن بيشي تاما بيشتقو أرى بقانو إلى صورة قخا دعثيث بريشة كفات بياشا بخ أرن بيشتن جو أرن بد ميالا خا قدمة بريشة بد ميالا خا دعثيث بريشة وبش من ثورانا شوقن بلخخ قد أرن هويا خميتا وأقطت إلى بياشا بايش آون بديولن صورة بخا قدمة بريشة ومشوخلبا من تمل
هاود بسيم عربي
هاود بسم تراباتي.
Thanks for tuning in to the Assyrian podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and that you got to learn a thing or two about the plight of Assyrians in the homeland here in Iraq. I look forward to bringing you more stories from here, but until then, we'll be back next week with a new episode. Be well.